The storm started like any other winter blizzard, harsh, biting, relentless. But this one wasn't letting up. Day one became day two, and day two stretched into a third. By the fourth morning, I was trapped in my cabin, surrounded by a sea of white that swallowed the mountains, the trees, even the horizon itself. The sky was heavy, black, suffocating. Stars were nowhere to be found, hidden beneath endless layers of snow and cloud. I went through my routine out of habit, chopping firewood, checking my supplies, keeping the quiet at bay. The rhythm of the axe on the logs, the smell of fresh pine, it was all grounding, almost meditative. But nothing could keep the isolation from gnawing at me. My neighbors were 40 minutes down the mountain if the roads were clear, and the roads weren't clear. Not for days. That's when I heard it. At first, I thought it was the wind, maybe a branch scraping the cabin. But it was too deliberate, too slow, too intentional. 2 soft knocks on the door. Pause. Nothing. My heart caught in my chest. I hesitated, then walked to the door. My hands shook, not from cold, but from that prickling sense of wrongness you get when the world feels off. And there he was, a man, maybe in his early 20s, frozen stiff, blue lips, eyes wide and glassy. Snow clung to him like he'd been buried alive in it, and he trembled as if the air itself was cutting through him. "Come in," I said, my voice firmer than I felt. He stepped inside without a word. Snow melted from his boots onto the cabin floor, leaving dark, wet trails. I led him to the fire and sat him in the armchair, trying to warm him up. His gaze was distant, empty, like he was looking through the flames at something only he could see. I checked him over, frostbite on his hands and ears, but something else caught my eye. A wound on his side, just below the ribs. It was deep, jagged, and crusted with dark blood. Not a wolf bite, not human. Something cleaner, stranger, something that didn't belong in nature. He flinched when I touched it, and for a moment his eyes snapped to mine, wild, panicked, but just for a second. Then the emptiness returned. I patched him up as best I could, cleaned and bandaged the wound, and set him in the guest room with a thick blanket and a space heater. He didn't speak. He didn't even close his eyes fully. I left him there, closed the door gently, and tried to focus on the fire, on a book I wasn't reading. But the cabin felt heavier. He brought something with him. I could feel it pressing against the walls, the floor, the ceiling. Hours passed. The storm raged outside. The wind screamed against the windows. But inside, a quiet that was too heavy pressed down. Then came the sound, the footboard creak. I froze. He was standing in the hall, just staring at me, vacant eyes tracking every movement. "Jesus," I whispered. He blinked slowly, like waking from a dream he didn't understand. "Sorry," he croaked. "I didn't mean to scare you." "It's fine. You're lucky to be alive. What happened?" He swallowed hard. His story came out in broken fragments. Camping in the woods with his girlfriend, caught in the storm, something attacked. Wolves, maybe, he thought. But the sound, the numbers, the speed, none of it made sense. He hadn't seen what did it. He ran. He made it to my cabin. That was all he could say. I didn't push. I knew enough. Something had followed him. Something unnatural. Later that night, I woke to a noise. Not the wind, not the storm. Something wet, tearing, scraping. I followed the sound to the guest room. He wasn't there. The bathroom door was slightly ajar, steam curling from the edges like smoke. I leaned in. Nothing, not a sound, just the metallic tang of fear, of something waiting. I opened the door. The scene froze me. The boy was gone from the floor, but the tiles were slick with black and red slime, like ink spilled in water, but thicker, alive. The mirror above the sink was shattered, jagged shards pointing outward like a scream frozen in glass. And then, faintly, the sound, the wet, screeching cry of something inhuman.
It came from outside, from the woods beyond the cabin. I grabbed the Remington from the closet, pumped it, loaded shells, the familiar weight comforting in my hands. But this wasn't hunting, not deer, not anything normal. Something alive, something dead, something that had worn death and shed it like a coat was moving out there, sliding down the mountain, and I was all that stood between it and the town below. The wind whipped in my face as I stepped outside. Visibility was near zero, but the trail was unmistakable. Dark slime smeared across the snow, distorted footprints, the scent of iron and decay. My heart pounded as I followed it, each step a battle against the drifts. Then I saw it. Low, enormous, matted black fur streaked with crimson, too many limbs moving in unison, scuttling like a giant insect, hunched, horrifying. Its bulk distorted in the blizzard, a nightmare crawling across the snow, moving toward town. I raised the shotgun, fired. The blast tore into its torso, but it didn't fall. A scream, inhuman, metallic, wet, cut through the storm. Spray of black slime and fur rained down. It lunged, disappeared into the trees, still alive, still hunting. Panic and adrenaline surged. I chased it into the woods, snow up to my knees, lungs burning, face stinging, every nerve screaming. The trail vanished. Not buried, vanished, as if it had never been. I froze. Then I saw movement above. The creature had used the trees, climbing, hiding, waiting. I was exposed, trapped. My breath hitched. The nightmare was above me now, hunting from the pines. Every instinct told me to run, but there was nowhere to hide. Then snow fell from the branches, a prelude to its landing. It hit the ground, waddling toward me, slick, glistening, massive. I was pressed into the roots of a fallen pine, shotgun ready, trembling, trapped, and aware I might not survive this. The sound came first, a wet, scraping shriek like metal tearing over bone. My lungs went cold. The snowstorm had been my cover, but now I realized it was also a mask for something far worse. The wind whistled, carrying with it the faint, cloying scent of iron and decay. I gripped my axe tighter, knuckles whitening, every muscle tensed for the thing that I could just barely make out through the blinding sheets of snow. It was enormous. Its bulk shifted in the whiteout, a mass of black, matted fur streaked with crimson and glistening slime. The creature moved differently than any animal should, limbs jerking in unnatural synchrony, sliding and scuttling as if it had no bones to restrain it. My heartbeat pounded in my ears, drowning out everything else. I had seconds to act. I shoved the door open, stepping out into the storm, and the snow clung instantly to my hair and eyelashes. The black and red trail it left on the pristine snow seemed almost to writhe, alive, pulling me forward like a curse. My eyes locked on it. It hadn't noticed me yet. I raised the axe, swinging it once to shake off the snow, and then I ran, trying to close the distance. My boots sank deep into drifts that reached my knees, slowing me, but adrenaline carried me faster than I should have moved through the cold. Each step was a fight, snow pressing against my chest, wind cutting through the layers I'd piled on for warmth. The creature stopped abruptly, low to the ground, its bulk massive and grotesque. It sniffed the air, the sound of its wet, rasping breath mingling with the screaming wind. Then it reared up, showing just enough of its towering form to make me wish I hadn't looked. Appendages, too many to count, writhed along its torso, flexing and scraping against each other.
I ducked instinctively, hiding behind the frozen trunk of a massive pine. Snow pelted my back, soaking through my jacket. The thing's head tilted, sensing, seeking, but not for me. Its gaze seemed focused on the world beyond, something I couldn't see, something only it could. For a moment, I dared to hope. Then, the snow shifted differently. Something darker moved above the tree line, slinking along the thick pines. The creature had the high ground. It was hunting, and I was trapped beneath it, exposed, just a shadow in its storm. I crawled low, pressing my face against the icy roots of the tree. My breath came shallow, rapid, misting in front of me. Every instinct screamed to run, but there was nowhere to go. Not down the mountain, the snow would swallow me. Not back toward the cabin, it would intercept me before I reached safety. I had seconds to decide. The creature descended, limbs scraping against frozen branches, snow exploding under its weight. Its head came into view. I could see the unnatural angles, the slick black fur matted with its own slime, the glossy red traces of something I didn't want to imagine. It tilted toward me, sensing, tasting the air. My heart stopped. One movement, one wrong breath, and it would be on me. I struck, not swinging, but thrusting the axe like I meant to bury it in the center of its mass. The creature recoiled slightly, a wet, choking scream splitting the wind. I twisted, using the force to shove snow and debris between us. My hands were numb, the axe slipping in my frozen grip. It lunged, low and fast, covering the space between us in terrifying seconds. I dove to the side, feeling claws scrape along the roots just above my head. The smell hit me, burnt hair, wet fur, something sweet and coppery from its insides. I rolled into the snow, pulling myself up as fast as I could. My eyes caught the kerosene can I'd left by the cabin door. It was now or never. I scrambled toward it, feeling the deep snow resist every movement. The creature paused, sniffing, head swinging back and forth, but it had lost my exact location. I grabbed the can, yanking the rag I'd stuffed into the neck, soaking it. The wind screamed against me, stealing my heat, but I didn't care. I needed fire. I threw the flaming rag, igniting a path directly in front of the thing. Flames hissed as they licked the snow, a mixture of heat and smoke cutting through the blizzard. The creature shrieked, thrashing wildly, dark slime mixing with the fire in a horrifying, glistening spray. Its bulk convulsed, shaking, but it didn't stop moving, trying to push through the flames as if nothing could burn it. I ran alongside, tossing kerosene over the edges, creating a moving barrier of fire. Snow hissed as it melted instantly, steam rising in thick clouds. The smell of burning fur and oily slime made me gag, but I couldn't stop. I had to force it back into the open where I had the advantage. It faltered, moving slower now, every limb slick and coated, the fire clinging like a predator itself. I drove it toward the open clearing, shouting, swinging the axe to distract and intimidate. My boots sank in deep drifts, arms aching, lungs on fire, but the creature stumbled, fell and writhed in the snow, trying to crawl away. Then, with a final desperate roar, it lunged at me. I met it head-on with the flaming rag pressed against its chest, igniting it fully. Screams split the night again, a sound both animal and mechanical echoing across the mountain. The storm swallowed everything, but the heat, the light, and the smell. Its bulk thrashed, flames consuming fur and slime, and for a moment I thought it might actually melt into nothing. Minutes passed like hours. The roaring ended. The snow fell quietly again. Steam rose from the blackened, burned body. I sank to my knees, chest heaving, eyes scanning the distance. No movement. The trail of slime and blood stopped at the edge of the clearing, fading into the white oblivion. I looked around the cabin. Doors still closed, the guest room still empty, but I knew the truth. One was dead, or at least this form was. But something else was still out there, something patient, something that didn't follow rules, something that might return. I didn't sleep that night. I sat by the last remnants of the fire, axe in hand, watching the swirling white darkness outside. Every gust sounded like a footstep, every shadow seemed alive, and every time I closed my eyes, I saw the boy, the young man who had been the first victim, and the impossible shape that had torn him apart. By morning, the storm had eased slightly, the wind still biting, the snow still deep. The cabin looked untouched, peaceful even, hiding the horrors that had just unfolded. But I knew better. I had survived, barely, and I had burned what I could, destroyed what I could. But the mountain didn't forget. It never forgave, and in the depths of that frozen wilderness, I realized something else. The blizzard hadn't ended. It had merely harvested the living and left me to count the cost.